Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to help the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. That's how we get the word out. I'm excited for today. You're going to get a lot of tangible stuff from today. We were chatting before. This is my good friend, Rob Cressy. He's a family guy. He's a coach who specializes in helping leaders grow through IA and self-development, which is an interesting combination. So you can show up to be your best, show up powerfully, and keep winning in all areas of your business and life. Really excited to get into things. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thank you, Angela. Super excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's get into things. So you got into this coaching. Tell us a little bit about how does AI and self-development connect? It's an interesting combination.
It's a unique combination. So I'll actually start with how it started, and it's the self-development side of things. 12 years ago, I left my full-time corporate job of doing digital advertising sales, where I was making multiple six figures, good dollars, but I didn't wake up every single day looking forward to slinging banner ads and text links. So I said to myself, I would regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't give it a shot at making my dreams happen. So I burned the boats, went down to zero, and became a full-time entrepreneur and creator with a goal of getting paid to talk about sports for a living. And on that very first morning of entrepreneurship, the first time I woke up, I had no one to tell me what to do, when to wake up, what do I eat, do I work out, anything. And for a lot of people, it's like, oh my God, that's a ton. For me, I was like, oh my God, can you believe I can do whatever I want? And it blows my mind, but at no point in the first 30 years of my life had anybody told me the term self-awareness. I didn't even know it existed. But on that very first morning, I realized something. I'm in charge of every single aspect of my life, my thoughts, how I get better, everything. So I became self-aware. I created a growth mindset for myself. And I said to myself, if I don't land a client today, tomorrow, this month, how can I still have a metric of success and growth that isn't attached to money? And for me, it was simple. No one can ever take from you your mindset and what you learned. Therefore, I've made self-development and personal growth the number one priority for myself every single day, every single morning for 12 straight years, because it guarantees I'm better today than I am yesterday. Of course, the business and the money and all that other stuff, that will come by putting in the work. But by developing myself, I'm always guaranteed to get better. Well, I did that for a decade straight in building a sports marketing agency, to where I eventually got hired to help people be better at business by being better at life, because some CEOs saw the way that I lived on Instagram and said, can you coach my team? I had no offer, no landing page, no nothing. And I'd never been a coach or even thought about that. But it was relatively effortless for me, because all I had to do was reverse engineer how I created the high performing habits, routines, and mindsets to create myself into the best version of myself, because I know what it's like to not be this person. And Angela, you and I run in similar circles, so you understand this level of excellence. So for me, the self-development side of things came from entrepreneurship is the greatest personal growth and development program known to man. And then the AI side of things came about 2 years ago when ChatGPT came out in beta of November 2022. I used it the first week it was out. And within the first minute, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I just used the internet for the first time. I'm all in. And the thing that immediately separated me from everybody else was people were like, oh my God, I can write a blog post that sounds like Daffy Duck. I'm like, that's irrelevant to me. How do I turn $1 into $1.50? I saw it only as a tool for business growth. So I don't care if it tells me that George Washington landed on the moon. That's not how I'm using it. I'm using it as a creative thought partner to help me get more with less done faster. And when I look at where I would grow or put chips on the side of growth, one is self-development, two is AI in business. And as a caveat, I believe in human AI, meaning I'm not outsourcing everything to robots. This is the ways that we can leverage it to be more efficient, to build better systems and processes that starts with you, the human creator, and you're leveraging it as your assistant. So I just combine the both of those together and I can help anyone grow depending on where they want to go.
What do you see? That's a lot. That's awesome. What do you see as the number one like reason people maybe don't grow at the rate that would be beneficial to their businesses?
So it's going to be several things. Number one, commitment. So a lack of commitment to it, which is likely because of a scarcity mindset. I don't have enough time, enough resources. I've never done this before. And for me, Angela, and similar to you, we have a standard of excellence for how we operate. So I don't live in that scarcity mindset. By design, I do hard things. I do things nobody has ever done before. So the difference is, are you seeking out growth and discomfort, or are you saying all of the reasons why I cannot, whether it's on the technology side of things or on the personal growth side of things? There's always an excuse for why not, or as I always like to say, comfortable is always comfortable. So it's very easy just to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And that's why I love to surround myself by the best in the world, because it pushes me to be better and grow.
That's good. I love that. So when you're working with someone that maybe is newer to the entrepreneur space, what are some tangible things you kind of say at the beginning that people should focus on?
Well, I learned this one the hard way from Ed Milet and Andy Frisella, and it's system scale. And I remember at one point, and they kept on hearing that on the calls that we were on, they'd be like, build your system scale. And I created a framework for myself over the years, and it is know, believe, live, KNOW. Do I know this to be true? System scale. Yes. Do I believe this to be true? Yes, I actually believe that these systems scale. Am I living this? And the answer was no. And I sat there and I was like, I've never built a system in my life, despite the fact that I hear what you're saying and I want to do it. So how in the world do you build a system if you've never built a system before? And the answer is you start building systems. So you turn yourself into a systems person. And this really changed my life and my business, because everything with personal and professional growth is all around systems. Tell me your system for becoming the best version of yourself, from your morning routine to your evening routine to your reading routine to the way that you work out. Everything is just a matter of one, do this, do this, do this, do this. So for a lot of people at the very beginning, you don't have those systems in place, and you almost don't even know what to ask, because I was in that situation. So the best thing that you can do is to start by saying, all right, what is the one thing that I can do to ... whatever it is that you want to do or grow or you would love to have in your life. And then once you've created that, it starts to stack like Lego blocks on top of each other, where, all right, I'm starting a reading routine. All right, cool. Maybe I'll meditate, then I'll journal. And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, a year later, you're like, wow, look at this habit stacking I'm doing. And that's really building the systems for your business and your life.
That's really cool. And AI is not something I know a lot about. So how do you find it being really effective? Like you're saying, to help work, I don't know, work less, do more, a little more. How do you use it?
So I use it in as many ways as possible on a daily basis. So the simplest way would be with ChatGPT, which to me is like the Xerox of AI. It's generative AI. And I think of it as a thought partner. That's the best way I can come. So I have a thought, a half-baked idea, or something that I would love to create. And I'll give a few use cases because this typically helps people out. So number one, as a world-class editor, I'm very conversational in the way that I talk or that I write. And it's good because I'm very good at what I do. I've got a lot of wisdom and knowledge, but I can jump around from thing to thing to thing. So sequentially, it might not be the best. Grammatically, it might not be the best. So I just roll in there and I'm like, hey, here's what I wrote already. Can you polish this up for me to make this better? And all of a sudden you read it and you're like, wow, that is significantly better. So now when I'm doing a blog post or a newsletter for myself, I just put it through my world-class editor to go check, check, check. Cool. I'm good there. So now I'm increasing the quality of it. It's really good at building strategies. So I always chuckle that it took me several years to build my coaching programs because one, I'd never done it before, but two, there could be a lot when you're helping people become the best version of themselves, from the habits, the routines, to the mindsets, to the various things. Well, using Chat GPT, I ended up creating it in about 7 minutes. So what previously took me 2 years, because you can start with, I am this world-class coach. I help entrepreneurs and high-performing leaders, and I would love to build an 8-week coaching program around, it's called Designing Your Best Self. Step one, help me create an outline of the 8 things that I could do from a high level. Here's where I'm starting from, some ideas. And it'll go, do, 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 do. And you're like, oh my God, that was super fast. And you're like, well, help me build out 3 sub bullet points for each one of those. Do, 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 do. And you're like, whoa, that's good. So once you understand that, you can use it to build podcast script templates. And remember, if it comes from you first, so you could be, hey, I'm having my friend Rob come on the podcast and we're going to talk about high performance and being the best version of yourself. What are 5 questions that I could ask him? And he'll go, do, do, do. You're like, that's cool, but everybody asks those questions. If someone is world class, what are questions someone might not ask them? Do, 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 do. So I'll just take those questions and then bring them to my podcast.
Wow.
So it's a thought partner where you're saying, this is what I'm looking to create. Can you support me? And it can just do it faster. Of course, you and I could think about 5 questions to ask each of us. But if you just give it a little bit of context, it can do it. So that's how I'm typically using it. And then when I'm working with clients, I'm just helping open up that aperture or possibilities for what this looks like for their own business. Because we're not just playing this to play it. It's like, no, we want to speed up the process.
Wow, that's so cool right there. Man, I'm excited to try this. I've been kind of away from the high AI world. I'm like, it's scary. But that's really cool using them to, I was like, I need people to think with me. They can think with me, basically. So that's really, really cool. I like that. Yeah, it just got me like thinking now. Love it. What were some
Okay.
Yeah,
You just experienced what everybody ends up experiencing for the first time. So here's the biggest challenge. You don't know what you don't know. So
right.
oftentimes when people are using ChatGPT for the first time, it gives them generic results because they're giving generic information. Write me a
Right.
marketing strategy. And it'll be like, oh, here's a generic one. But you're like, but that's not really what I do, versus write me a marketing strategy for using a podcast and creating short form content by starting with a 30-day content calendar. I want to post just on Instagram. And it'll go, do, 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 do. And you're like, oh, the
Wow.
more specific you are, the more context you give it,
Yeah.
the better the outputs and the more tailored for you. But if nobody's ever told you the framework for what it is to put into that, you might use it and be like, I don't really see what everybody's talking about here. Versus, and Angela, you and I both know this, the fastest way to get to where we want to go is to go with people who have already been there and done that. And that's sort of where I come in, being like, well, I've been using this for 2 years, coaching CEOs and entrepreneurs and their teams on this. So a simple 30-minute or hour conversation with me will vastly change the next 10 years of your life, because now you're using it in a way that the best in the world use it.
Be more specific. Get what you actually want out of it. That's awesome. I love that. That's very cool. What were some of the things that you've had to overcome yourself to go from, from marketing and sports marketing and even before that to get to where you're at now? Like what are some struggles that you've worked through and how did you work through them?
How much time do we have for this? Because I've got a freaking book of Welcome to the World of Entrepreneurship, because it has been a grind, it has been a challenge, and that is what I signed up for. So that's almost the constant reminder for myself on those inevitable low moments, days, which happen consistently. So there's a fallacy that if you're a positive, good vibes, happy person, that you don't have challenges in your life, and that is not true. It is because I have so many challenges in my life. I choose to be a positive person because that is the story that will serve me more. So, number one is going to be the story that I tell myself. That is the biggest challenge because our own self talk, we know our weaknesses, our shortcomings. We know how to lie to ourselves. We know how to live in scarcity, fear, not enoughness, and it doesn't serve us. But we also have to have the ability to self-coach ourselves. And remember, I wasn't always this person. So this has been a constant evolution. And the challenging yet opportunistic part of this game is that we have to show up every single day because my self-talk is going to be back there again tomorrow. And it's probably going to have some negative stuff to it at some point, right? So, because there's going to be obstacles and adversity and challenges. Some you see, some you don't see. Some we create, some that gets created for us there. So because of this, that's been super challenging. Another part of this journey that's been very hard has been the alone factor of this, of feeling like you're on an island by yourself. Because there's not a lot of other people like me. It's why, Angela, people like you and I connected because we're a part of Arte, because I want to be around the best in the world. Because for 12 years in a row, I've woken up in the morning and I look around and I don't know anybody else who really does what I do. So my friends, my family, the people around me for so long, whether it was in sports marketing or coaching, they'd be like, Rob, I don't understand what you do. I don't understand how you make money. And the thing about that is this is my dream. So it's not up to me to convince you that what I'm doing, I have the vision for. But at the same time, you don't exactly get all warm and fuzzy when everybody is constantly not shooting down your dream, but not understanding the vision of what you see. Because Angela, people like you and I do the work every single day. So what are all of the things that nobody has ever seen that I have done that contribute to who I am? AKA the waking up at 5 a.m. for a decade straight and reading for 30 minutes and going to the gym and investing in my personal growth and showing up for the calls and hiring the coaches and spending my money on coaching and investing in myself at the expense of the things that the rest of the world is probably spending it on. So that's been challenging right there. And it's why I seek out the best in the world. And at the same time, I'm somebody who is also a community builder and leader, because what I want for others oftentimes is what I have not been getting in my own life.
Let's touch on that, the coaching part. So I'm guessing you invested in yourself back when you couldn't afford it. And you know what, that's a huge thing. And I just did a post on that. I mean, that's why we invest in ourselves. What's the mentality and how does someone get through that? Because I know a lot of people are like, I can't afford to do that. I can't afford a coach. But they can't afford not to have a coach, or they can't afford not to go to the events, or they really can't afford. How do you coach? How do you coach someone that they need to pay for themselves and invest in themselves when they don't necessarily have the quote money to do it?
All right, perfect. Because I was that person. So step one is to open up your aperture or vision of what you see coaching to be. So if you have no money right now, I'm going all in on podcasts and videos and books. Why? They're free or super low cost. Low hack. I know very few people who do this. There's a thing called the library, which will allow you to get free books, including on the Kindle. So I read on the Kindle. Once you understand that, you're like, wait a second, you're telling me I have an endless list of things that I can consume. So this will become your first digital mentors. So the Andy's and the Eds and the Jesse Itzlers of the world, or the Gary V's, or the Richard Bransons, or the Grant Cardones, the whoever it is, they were all my mentors before I had ever had a single conversation with any of them. I'm just voraciously reading where you hear about Richard Branson, then somebody mentions somebody else in a book, and you're like, well, who's this person? And you jump into their world, and you're like, oh my God, can you believe this? Like, when I discovered Ed Milet for the first time, you're like, holy smokes, this is unbelievable. You're like, I'm going to listen to his entire library of podcasts. So now you're just living in the world of Ed all the time. And inevitably, then you'll hear the opportunity, whether it's in a podcast or something else, to deepen the relationship. And you'll sit there, and there's two various ways of this. So many of us have been on a webinar before, way back in the day, when you're like, this is the thing that is going to change my business and my life. And then they have the reveal at the end, and they're like, and it's only $5,000. And you get that pit in your stomach, and you're like, oh my God. You're like, I don't have that there. And it's not a very good feeling whatsoever. So you want to be able to transcend the digital to investing in yourself the first time. Let's not go all the way to the end. And it really comes hiring your first coach. The very first coach I hired was $2,000. It was a brand building coach to help me create clarity around my brand messaging and offering. And it was the best gift in the entire world for two reasons. Number one, it was the first person that I felt, heard, and saw my dream and was willing to support me on it. So he's like, hey, Rob, tell me about what you're building. And I just poured into him what I was building with my sports marketing company. And he was like, cool, that's awesome, let's do it. And it almost made me emotional, because when the rest of the world was like, I have no idea what you're doing, Rob, there was somebody else who was a champion for me being like, got it, let's make it happen. And little did I know what that $2,000 investment would unlock in me, because then you're like, holy smokes, if one coach can help me here, what are all the other areas of my business? So let's go from building my brand to mindset and personal growth, or high performance, which led me to RTA Syndicate. And I'd listened to Andy and Ed's podcast, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're starting this new community. There's a landing page with almost nothing on it. Doesn't tell you anything of what you're getting. They're like, sign up here. It's a couple $100 a month. And at the time, depending on where you're at, a couple $100 a month can feel like a lot if you've never invested in yourself before. So whether you go from 1 or 2K for one coach, or a couple $100 a month for an ongoing, consistent program, man, once I did that and you start to see the light bulb moments, you're like, I'm about this life for the rest of my life. So 2K turns into $300 a month, turns into your first 10K investment. And once you've done that, then you realize the second you make the investment is the second you get the ROI, because you are now a different person who is invested in yourself at such a level. Because they're like, well, how do I know if it works? It's actually not about does it work? It's about your state of being the person who invests. And now I'm going to make it work.
That's right. Oh, I love that. Because one of the things I was saying, and if anyone's listening, like, well, I mean, people are listening, but like, if you're struggling with this is like the biggest thing has been for me. I remember my first event that was, I think it was like 20,000 Canadian, and a John Maxwell event. And I was like, at the time that was 20% of my whole income. And I was like, holy moly, I'm not sure about this. But I signed up, and I was like, it's where my identity shifted. And people are like, did you make $20,000 that event? Here's what I want you to think about. You listen, this is not about making that money out of the event or out of the training. It's who you become. Like Rob was saying, it's who you become over that period of, because of that investment. And you keep doing that, and you start to change your inners. And when your inners change, your outers change. Not necessarily like that. They just change. Anything else you wanted to?
Yeah. And Angela, here's the yes and what you just said, because the next thing becomes your time horizon for the ROI. You and I play the long game. And of course, we would love short-term results and wins. You will get that just from being around John Maxwell and those people and those connections. You never know when you run into Rob or Angela at an event, you talk, you jump on them, or whatever it is. So you might get it. Boom, I got a brand new client right away. Great. At the same time, the identity, the being, the people, the referrals, the insights, all of those things start stacking like Lego blocks. So now you're someone who's invested 20K at this level here, and that ROI just keeps on compounding. And that's what ends up earning your confidence in being the best in the world, is that you know the work that you've put in. And one of the quotes that I'm really inspired by right now, the NFL Hall of Fame induction ceremony happened last month. And there's this guy named Patrick Willis who was inducted. And he had a quote. And he says, you cannot cheat the grind for the grind knows what you put in. And this is a guy standing on stage at the highest level. He's getting the biggest honor. And it's like he was speaking directly to my soul, because when you're one of those people who is just constantly put it in the grind, that's actually what this coaching is about. That this is your level up, both in your belief and your identity, on top of course, the skill sets and the things that you're looking to acquire by hiring a coach.
That's so good, man. I love this. I know we could go forever. I try to keep these short and sweet. It's kind of cool you just touched on a quote, because it's one of my 3 final questions. So we'll go into that, and then anything that you just think is really impactful. Guys, Rob will have all his information. Reach out. I know you'll have a lot of questions. He does a lot of different things. So feel free to reach out to Rob, and I know he'll be happy to point you in the right directions or help out or whatever. First and final question is, if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence that you would say that could help them find it?
It's the same question that I ask every single coaching client for every single session I have ever done. What would you love to create today? That is it. Because when you come from the place of love, not obligation, not, oh, I think I should do this, but love, whatever that answer is, boom, lean into that thing. And if you don't know, this is a great place for inquiry, because a lot of times you might be like, I'm not sure. Okay, well, let me just write down a few things I might love. And what you may realize is the things that you don't versus the things that you do. And just by going down that exploration, you will create the clarity that will create that purpose of the thing that it is that you do want. So don't think you have to answer the question like, boom, Rob and Angela, I got it. Use this as all right, I'm going to be intentional about this. What would I love to create in my life? And start from that point.
I love that. Second question is, you just mentioned it, so this might be it. What's a favorite quote and why? Is that kind of one of your favorite quotes?
Well, that's just recent. I've got another one, and I know this is going to resonate with you. Prepare for what's difficult when it's easy. And this to me is entrepreneurship 101. And when I think back at the beginning of my journey, when I'm sitting there at zero and I was hearing all the statistics about the small businesses and entrepreneurs that fail after 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years, and it's some insane number, 75%, 80%, 90%. And I was like, all right, how do I not be one of those people? And it came down to one very simple thing: don't quit. Therefore, I became somebody who specialized in not quitting. And there was a book that really changed my life, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. It's all around Stoic philosophy, but what it really says is all around turning obstacles and adversity into opportunities. So for me, I know tomorrow there are going to be challenges, obstacles, adversities, self-limiting beliefs all day, every day. Therefore, I want to prepare for what's difficult when it's easy, because I know what's on the horizon, even if I don't see it right now.
That's good. Third and final question. What's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
Believe. Simple. And this actually is the yes and to what I just said, because if you believe and you have that faith in yourself, in your dreams, in your goals, in your potential, that you can do anything that you set your mind to, you have infinite possibilities. I only have 3 tattoos, and one of them, and it was my first one, was believe, because I wanted a constant reminder to believe, because faith is something that can be so easy to let go of because of you're feeling trapped or just things are not going well right now. Keep believing, keep believing, keep believing. I want that literally everywhere. And actually, I love that question, Angela, because that is actually now going to be on my tombstone.
Cool. I love that. That's very cool. All right. You run into someone in the coffee shop. They listen to this. They're going to use some chat GPT. Figure that one out, because that was cool. They're also going to, start to self-develop, all the stuff we talked about. What's something, though, we didn't touch on, Rob, that you think would be really impactful for our listeners?
Is to be intentional about designing your self-talk. So I've mentioned multiple times around the challenges and the struggles with what we are saying to ourselves. Well, remember, system scale. So what is your system for designing a powerful story that you tell yourself? AKA your self-talk, every single morning to boot yourself into the best version of yourself. And you'd be like, what in the world are you talking about? Well, the second that you open up your phone, the TV, email, the world, you're now on the world's agenda, and they're going to fill you with everything that they want. Let's start with what you want. What does the best version of Angela and Rob look like? What is that story that keeps going in your head over and over and over again? We know those negative ones are going to keep looping. So why don't we start the momentum by designing the self-talk? And here's a very simple, practical tip that I rarely hear. I would love for you to design your first thought every single morning. Well, why in the world is that? Well, I'm pretty sure tomorrow I'm going to have a first thought, right, Angela?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Definitely.
so if we know every single day we're going to have a first thought, why would we not start the momentum right then? Well, I can't do it then. I got to wait an hour to start build. No, let's start right then. And this isn't like I'm asking you to shovel rocks. All I'm asking is let's be intentional about this. All right, I know I'm going to have a first thought tomorrow. So for me, for the last 12 years, the first thought I've had every single morning is today is going to be a great day. Why? Who do you think is going to have more great days? Somebody who says today is going to be a great day 365 times over the course of the year, or somebody who does not. So my encouragement for you is, how would you love to wake up in the morning and start building momentum? So Angela, I'll ask you, what would you love your first thought every morning to be?
I like that one. Today's going to be a great day. That sounds fantastic.
Right. And then here's the next part of this. But I've never done this before, or what if I forget? Well, that's actually just a lack of process, right? If somebody says I forgot, then I just hear system scale. So all I want you to do is take a post-it note and put it on your bathroom mirror or on your wall that says today's going to be a great day. So maybe it's not your first thought. Maybe it'll be your second thought, because now you have to see it. All right. Now we've designed the system for creating the drip of positivity. Today's going to be a great day. Cool. If it nothing else, I started it in the best way possible.
I love that. That's so good. Guys, I know you'll want to reach out. I know you'll want to share this. There's a lot of tangible tips here. Let's go out there. Let's change the world one person or one starfish at a time. If we can change one life at a time together, we can change the world. Thank you so much for being on, Rob.